We thought that Kansas State back home, regrouping after Texas Tech, would be a tough game for A&M. We did not anticipate a 38-0 lead at the half.
No, we didn't. They're just dominating the line of scrimmage right now, running the football and doing whatever they want on offense. And defensively, for Texas A&M, they can't stop anybody. They can't get anything going.
And the kick will be taken by Banks inside his own 5. To the 15, to the 20. Look out. There he goes. One man to beat. Cuts it back in. There he goes. He's going to score. And the second half starts just like the first half. All Kansas State, 96 yards. And the first play of the second half for Brandon Banks. Are you kidding me?
His third return of the year. Mr. Electricity tonight, all thus far this season, and right there on that return. And A&M, this drive defensively on the kickoff, you were supposed to make a statement and say, we're still going to play another 30 minutes of football, and that did not happen, if anything's indicative of that first return.
He leads the Big 12 in kick return yards. He came in at 588. His return average is 28. That's on the rise. And now his third return for a touchdown here in 09 on a kickoff. I'll tell you what, you've got Kansas State upcoming. Watch out. I mean, the way that this team has played tonight is a different team than we saw 2 weekends ago against Iowa State. Let's look at the first half stats as it's now 45-0. You see it's just absolutely dominated by Kansas State.
The biggest stat you want to look at right now is time of possession. Kansas State 19-42. And when you look at the number of plays that Texas A&M has run, which is 30, that's 13 below their average. Remember, they average 86 a game. Tempo offensively is not there as Kansas State is owning time of possession. Unbelievable right now.
Well, you coached with Pete Carroll at USC, and you've been on the sideline just like Kansas State has, up big a lot of times.
Yeah, and when you're up big, you're telling your guys in the locker room, it's not over. We want to come out and make a statement that we play a full game because we probably haven't done it thus far this season, and Kansas State hasn't. They're on the path to probably the most complete game thus far in 09.
Going nowhere. Lost yardage. Cyrus Gray on the return, and a short return. And let's go downstairs. Sam, I'm sure it's not a very happy sideline there with Mike Sherman and the Aggies.
No, guys, when Coach Sherman came back onto the field after halftime, he had nothing to say. And to be honest, I think I'd be speechless too. When I talked to Coach Kynes this week, he said one of the problems with having so many freshmen is they have really high highs and really low lows. And once they get this low, it is hard to bounce back. But I can tell you right now, these Wildcats are enjoying this high.
45-0, showing blitz here. Brought down inside the 10 at the 8. That's Calvin, the big man.
They are dominating every element of this football game. Offense, defense, special teams, you name it right now. And when you're a young player, you need to do things right consistently, and right now as you see this comparison on plays and time of possession, that is not the case for Texas A&M.
Lost 9 on the play, looking to the sideline, and it's picked off. Can they take it in? Knocked out of bounds at the 14-yard line. This young man has had a huge night. Is he something else? Joshua Moore, he's been all over the field. Second interception here in 2009 for Moore.
And when it rains, it pours right there. He sets his feet, he throws the football, a great play over the top, and the corner Moore comes up with it on the deflection, and away he goes. It's really interesting when you look at young players. Young players at the Division I level in high school, they probably won every game. They probably played well every time they'd lace them up. And right now, when you're faced with that for the first time as a freshman or a sophomore, it is uniquely different. You do not know how to respond, and that's what's going on right now at every single position for A&M.
Touchdown. 9-yard touchdown run. If you are on the other sideline right now in Texas A&M, this second half could not have started any worse.
No, you're exactly right. You see this run right here, and it's as though no one was even anywhere near the running back as he made his way to the end zone. A nice cut right there to find his way for 6. But right now, remember what's going on at A&M. They're trying to change a culture, and when you do that, you need to get your players to develop a different mentality, a winning mentality, and expecting to win process and expecting to win mindset. And right now, when things go bad, things can get really bad and very ugly where you almost, now you know you're going to lose. It's a tough situation.
It's ugly now, 52-0. You're watching the Big 12 on Fox College Sports. Got a long way to go, and it's 52-0. Gregory and the Wildcats rolling tonight over Texas A&M. And you can stay updated on everything FCS is working on this season by following us at twitter.com/Fox College Sports. From programming info to college sports updates, follow us on Twitter. What a difference a week can make. Kansas State just last weekend lost 66-14 at Texas Tech. And tonight they have a lead of 52.
Wow.
We should mention, by the way, Yogi, that we'll be here next weekend. And that'll be an 11:30 kickoff Central. It'll be Kansas State against Colorado. The Buffaloes, they really need a big win for Coach Hawkins and that program, just like a Texas A&M team does. Well, at the half against number 17 KU, they lead them 24-3. So you're talking about the potential of having a huge matchup with Kansas State coming off what will be a win tonight. At home, you know that their crowd, because of Bill Snyder being back and a huge win tonight by a wide margin, they're going to be interested to see how they come out next weekend. And then you have Coach Hawkins and the Buffaloes coming off one of their bigger wins in recent history if they can hold on and beat a top 20 team.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to watch those athletes match up against each other because I think Colorado can match up with Kansas State.
Are you seeing right now that Texas A&M, it's almost like they're tiptoeing right now on the field. It's not hitting the hole and looking for contact.
You're exactly right. You need to trust your coach. You need to trust your vision. And right now, they're not doing anything like that under the sun. Remember, as you see the quarterback get under center, this is a shotgun-oriented offense. That means they throw the ball a large amount of time as he drops back right now.
Yeah, they'll do here, and he'll be brought down. Another sack.
It's no secret the offensive line for A&M is not done well tonight or throughout the entire season. But no, if you're an Aggie fan, they're recruiting well. They're recruiting a lot of offensive linemen. Some of their young offensive linemen will develop. But up front, they are young, they're inexperienced, and it shows. The quarterback isn't setting his feet. The backs aren't hitting their holes. And right now, Jeffrey Fitzgerald, who leads the Big 12 in tackles for losses, is having his way.
Trying to set up a screen here. They will. No flag on the play. Now a late flag comes in. That'll be a clip.
100%. And it was almost as though the official didn't want to call it. So let's just get this game going. But he called it. It was a clip. And if you're that offense, the screen is the way to go right now. A lot of pressure up front.
Back, offense number 17. Penalties declined. 4th down.
You see the replay here, and it'll be on the right of your screen, the clip.
Right there.
Got to have your hat in front of him to even touch him, and that's upsetting because that's 17, Ryan Tannehill, who is the veteran on this staff, Mr. Everything. Hasn't been involved in the offense thus far tonight. Didn't do well on the first interception that was thrown. It looked like he stopped his route a little short and right there on the penalty. And when things are going bad for him, you know they're going bad for the entire program.
And you have to kick it to Banks, or do you? This is returnable. Here he goes to the 50. And brought down at the 43-yard line. We'll take a timeout with 12:02 to play. Kansas State at home. Bill Snyder, Family Stadium. And the coach is up by 52.com. This is Banks again.
And the substitutions have began for Kansas State.
So let's take a look at Kansas State right off the bat. First play, second half, goodbye. It was about that fast, too. Banks took it all the way, 96 yards, and then interception sets up another score. And Kansas State is added to their lead 52-0. All these young players for Texas A&M, as crazy as it does sound, and I know their fans don't want to hear this, but you keep them in and it does turn into a learning experience of some sort. I mean, you got to keep these kids out there even though they're getting thumped. But this is a chance to learn from it. You see the team leaders.
You're exactly right. And Gregory, what an incredible night for him as he's kind of called it a day. He's back on the bench right now having fun with his teammates. Banks a great job, and Thomas just completely dominating this game following his offensive line up front. But you're right. For a young player on defense, you've got to learn how to strain and how to compete when things are tough. We talked about it a few times already. They've always had success. They've always been the all-state, all-conference player. Right now, they're finding players that are faster, bigger, and stronger than them. And they need to strain and compete and understand what that's like. And I'm sure Coach Sherman, when he gets in the locker room after this game, will say that. Don't forget the taste in your mouth right now.
Trail Snipes with his second catch, and that is the backup for tonight, Carson Kaufman. Get an idea there, Yogi, of the arm strength that Kaufman possesses. He's got a big-time arm.
Yeah, he does. And he did a nice job of managing the offense early on in the season, but didn't do anything to wow you. And I don't think this staff thought that he would win them a lot of games. He could manage a lot of games. And Gregory has that intangible of the ability to win a few games with his feet, with his arms, and his mindset of being a football guy his entire life.
If you're Kansas State, I'm sure their coaching staff, one of the things that they'll tell their defense in particular, Bill Snyder will say, look, let's pitch a shutout.
You're exactly
That's
right.
how you stay motivated.
And especially the young guys. They'll be hearing from the juniors and seniors and the starters saying, hey, look what we did in the first 2 and a little bit more quarters of action here on the football field. Protect the goose egg.
And Kaufman again will hand it off. Little change of direction to the outside. Back inside. Back in the end zone. A 19-yard touchdown run.
And he is a good back. I mean, he leads the conference in yards per play and does a really nice job. He considers himself a starting running back, even though Thomas has obviously taken the load. He is their purest running back in terms of understanding how to read defenses and defensive linemen. In fact, he's the one who taught Daniel Thomas a lot about the position. So a good moment for those two teammates.
Cheering on for the extra point. 5 plays, 43 yards. And it took 2 minutes and 14 seconds on the drive. .9:48 to go in the third quarter. 59 points put up by Kansas State. Well, this is hard to believe. 59-0 Kansas State over Texas A&M. By the way, Texas A&M coming into this game favored. And they trail by 59 points.
How about the biggest loss in A&M history? In 2002 against Oklahoma, 77-0. That year they were 4-8 under Francione. And I could see 77 going up tonight because they haven't stopped anybody.
And there's a lot of time still left.
In Kansas State, their offense, they run the same thing in the first quarter or the fourth, no matter what the score is, and that's pound the rock.
And the kick is away. Taken at the 15. And something positive there for A&M. Sam, give us something positive. What's going on down there?
Well, I will tell you that for the last couple of weeks, Bill Snyder's been telling us all about the fact that these fans are incredibly loyal. Well, part of that is because this athletic administration makes a concerted effort to keep their fans happy even when the team isn't doing well. And one of the things they've done is inserted this thing called Harley Day, where, well, there's really no exact purpose to Harley Day. They just bring out about 100 Harleys, ride them around the stadium right before kick, and I happened to get on one today and get a ride. But guys, it was awesome. They just do it because the fans get excited about it and they love it, and well, they seem to still be pretty excited. Can't imagine why.
How was the travel around the stadium?
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I was a little nervous because I wasn't sure about the speed The guy that I was riding with, he was awesome. Kept me happy about the whole thing, but it was great. It was fun. I was pretty excited. They tried to get me to wear a purple bandana, but I wasn't having it. Gotta stay neutral, you know?
I understand.
We need to start getting Harleys for our travel instead of just the cars that we get, man. It'd be sweet.
Awesome.
9:42 to play and an injured Aggie. By the way, the last time that Kansas State has put up 60 or more points in a game was just a season ago. It's 69 points against Montana State. That's Montana State. This is Big 12 football, Texas A&M, against a team that is favored in this game.
And this is a team who played Oklahoma State, a team ranked in the top 10 in the preseason, who beat Georgia in the opener. They only lost 36-31 a week ago.
Well, how about Arkansas? Arkansas almost beat Florida, and they played Arkansas tough.
When you have a young team, they can't read their press clippings one way or the other. They've got to come and play ball every single Saturday.
They'll go deep. They've got a man. This should be 6, and it is. Finally, something positive here for Texas A&M. And it's about time. Wachaku with the touchdown reception.
The freshman, he's been a bright spot thus far this season on this offense, making plays with his feet. Obviously, they think he has one of the best chances to becoming a big-time bona fide wide receiver prospect in this program. And this connection, you're going to see it a lot. Quarterback to receiver. These two are going to be in the program for a little while, and they're going to continue to develop their rapport in the slot, on the outside, and obviously under center with Johnson.
So one play, 66 yards, and it takes 14 seconds. So Texas A&M gets on the board. Wachaku, the touchdown reception. And he showed the burners here, didn't he?
Yeah, and you want to be proud of the freshman. Reason being, he hasn't lost his focus. He's still playing every single snap, and that's why he's had success in all their big games thus far this season. They call him easy because it comes to him real easy, and that touchdown surely did.
I want to remind you that we'll be here next week again. Kansas State and Colorado at 11:30, and you can order Fox College Sports 1-877-2-GET-FCS, 1-877-2-GET-FCS, or visit us online at foxcollegesports.com.
Special teams, an element where young guys, they play a lot. But I promise, every young player who signs with a major Division I university never signs up and says, I'm going to be on the kickoff team. I'm so excited to be on special teams. But there's a pride in that. But there's also an element of a lack of focus, and you saw that on the last kickoff. So it'll be fun to see how they respond, the Aggies and the young people on this kickoff team.
Well, Easy, as you like to talk about, leads a team with now 9 plays of 20 or more yards with that long touchdown reception, and the kick is away by Texas A&M. Here's Banks again to the outside and finally knocked out of bounds. Now Texas A&M against Oklahoma State, you mentioned that loss. That was at College Station, 36-31. And next week they get Texas Tech at Texas Tech, a team that just put 66 up on K-State.
Yeah, and the offenses are relatively similar in terms of spreading it out and taking shots down the field. But the offense and defensive line for Texas Tech, with the return of one of their starters today, has been solidified as a force that can protect the quarterback and also get after the quarterback. So if I'm A&M, once again, you're going to deal with a heavy rush next weekend.
Texas Tech beat Nebraska 31-10 today. And as we mentioned before, it was Texas over Oklahoma. The final there was 16-13. Pass completed, a 5-yard pickup at the half. Colorado leading 24-3 over KU. Iowa State over Baylor 14-3. Of course, Baylor's star Griffith is out. And coming up, and it's just about ready to kick off, Mizzou and Oklahoma State. Late start, those two teams, and a big road test for the Tigers and Oklahoma State. Without Des Bryant again, trying to pick up another conference win. Under 9 minutes to go. And a handoff. There he goes again. Brought down at the 35.
It's really interesting watching this running back run. Why? Well, when you see Thomas, most of his runs in the first half were front side runs. By
Bigger
that,
too.
He went to the left and he stayed course to the left. When you're a true running back, like Valentine is, you have the ability to cut back because that's what your vision has been ever since you started playing Pop Warner football. And in zone runs, that's exactly what is allowable. Cutback lanes on his touchdown run was a cutback lane. On that run, he did the same exact thing.
It was just a weekend ago. He had 96 yards at Texas Tech, including a 61-yard run. Valentine again spinning and still on his feet, but brought down. You know, he leads a Big 12 in total offense per play, almost 9 yards a play. So it gives you an idea. He's a home run hitter for Bill Snyder.
An interesting story out of Baton Rouge. He walked on to his JC, played great. Then he walked on to Kansas State and played great. Now he's a scholarship, and he is their best true tailback. And the more Wildcat they play with Thomas at the quarterback, the more he plays at running back. So you might see him more as the season progresses.
And a short pickup there. With games like this, you got to figure the fan base gets energized, not only about the news of Bill Snyder coming back and trying to get this program back to where it was, but all of a sudden the fans say, well, maybe things are going the right direction here. You know, Bill Snyder didn't take that long, and look what he did to Texas A&M. Look at some of the wins that he's had this year.
That's right. I mean, the UMass game, Louisiana early on, Texas Tech, they didn't mean much to this fan base, but this win, it will mean the world to them right now about the midway point in this season.
We mentioned at the top of the broadcast how this being the midway point of the season, you want to see where you're at. And Kaufman a little shook up as he looks over to the sideline. And now you get a better idea of where you're at against a young Texas A&M team, but a big test next week again with Colorado.
Yeah, and every season, whether you're a player or a coach, is a lifetime. And you go through the highs and lows of a lifetime, and you either remain undefeated and you're mortal, or you lose a couple games, you're immortal. And that's what's happening right now for A&M. They're going to have to go back to College Station, regroup, but remind themselves they got some more games on the schedule, and they got to show up no matter what, so they might as well do it with a positive attitude. And they're going to try to continue to play this one out and pull as many positives as they can.
That'll be a turnover on downs as they went for it on fourth down. So Texas A&M gets a stop, and they'll have the football.
When you're in the huddle right now, and you're Coach Sherman or his offensive coordinator, or whatever coach is talking to these players at their respective position groups, you're saying, let's just go do things right and try to coach off the tape. Because they might come in tomorrow and watch this film and rip through that first half, and in the second half get to some real teaching moments for these young players on the squad.
Yogi, we talked about how Texas A&M, they'll just throw it away, came in averaging nearly 80 plays a game, and that's only their 37th play of the night, and they only have 123 total yards. That's it. They have given up 52 plays and 356 yards.
Yeah. Their offense is based on West Coast principles. What does that mean? That's the short passing game, but utilizing the entire field in a spread-oriented offense. And when pressure comes, and it's solid press, man-to-man coverage on the outside and in the slot, you don't have the ability to complete those short passes. And that's what happened thus far early in the game to get them out of a rhythm.
And we were talking to some of the fans and folks that follow this program leading into this game, following the Texas Tech game in which Kansas State gave up the 66 points. Well, they're facing a Texas A&M team that is fourth in total offense coming into play tonight. And yet, here they have just 133 yards now.
And their quarterback's had a tough night. He's finding a rhythm, completing the last two passes to his two probably favorite targets in the tight end and the backup quarterback, Tannehill. But right now, their focus needs to be on the QB and putting him in positions every snap to set his feet, find his open receiver, go from one receiver to the second. On the West Coast offense, sometimes you have 3-4 receivers you can potentially get to. Right now, he's lucky if he's getting past his first progression because that offensive line up front.
Over the middle, another first down picked up.
That's what this offense is meant to do. Crossing routes, shallow, intermediate, then take a shot deep on a post. That's exactly what they do. And right now, Johnson, yeah, of course the game is out of reach, but he's finding a nice comfort level, setting his feet and making accurate throws. And that's what you need to do as a quarterback. You need to do two things to be successful. Be accurate and anticipate where your receivers are going to be. And thus far on this drive, Johnson's doing so.
It was Howard Morrow with the catch. He's a fifth-year senior. Missed 07 with a wrist injury, and they said really it's just taken him about a year to get back in. Go to the corner of the end zone, and that is caught. A touchdown. A touchdown for Texas A&M, and his second of the night. Gives you an idea of just how good Wachaku could be.
That's a nice job by them. And there are a few second-teamers for Kansas State on defense right now, but the corner they just made a play on is not a second-teamer. That's their starter, Stephen Harrison. He's been beat a few times. Last weekend, he got picked on a little bit, and right now they went right back to it. And I'm sure that was part of the game plan heading in before this turned into a relative blowout. But it gained some confidence for this quarterback and this receiver and this offense. They're going to pull every positive they can in their last two drives. They've done some good things.
So 5:01 to go in our third quarter of play. Kansas State 59 with the extra point. That now makes it Texas A&M 14. Another look at the touchdown here.
Once again, set that back foot. Throw the ball, give your receiver a chance. He goes up and makes a play.
Initially, I thought he pushed off on the play, but now in watching it, he really didn't. He just kind of timed it, stopped, and was able to jump make the timing for the jump.
The staff has said he's got a great feel for the football. He can track the ball. It's kind of like a center fielder. When the ball's hit, you know where it's going to relatively land, so you can run full speed. When you're a receiver and you know where the ball is going to land, you can mess around with the DB. You can slow up. You can speed up. A guy by the name of Larry Fitzgerald has mastered that trait of kind of messing with the defensive back's head. I'm running faster. I'm running slower. Then out of nowhere, you pluck the ball away from him. This is going to be number 7, easy. You're going to like him. You're going to hear his name a lot. You should be excited if you're an Aggie fan. Only a freshman. Have him around for a while.
And the kick is hit out of bounds. By the way, Banks is not back there, so penalty. And a very short kick.
In Kansas State, they're going to come back and just run their offense. And right now, that offense has not been stopped.
Offense, Kansas State's ball, 40-yard line.
The fun part about defensive football, if you're Texas A&M, is that every single player has a gap. And by that, they have a responsibility. Every single area of this field is supposed to be covered by one person or another. And when teams run the football, you find out how good you are at fitting those gaps. And right now in this second half, it's going to be great film for them to pull from and find out, all right, are we reading our keys? Are we following our responsibilities? Just getting back to the fundamentals of tackling and fitting up in defensive football.
You mentioned the nice story about Valentine, and former walk-on in junior college, and did that here at Kansas State. You know, he was number 1 on their depth chart beginning of last season, and you do get an idea. You do get an idea of him being able to bounce to the outside, and you know that Bill Snyder and the Kansas State coaching staff want to just keep that clock running, but it's an interesting story to see a guy go from a walk-on in 2 different spots to being able to play in a major conference like the Big 12. There's those quick feet again.
There's a lot of great stories on this Kansas State team. A lot of junior college players that have had interesting backgrounds. You know, one of my favorite stories of the year in all of college football is 81 Trell Snipes. I mean, he came out of Seattle. His mom was sick. He relatively raised himself, going from shelter to shelter as a high school athlete. Finally goes down to junior college in Bakersfield, does well, comes up here to Kansas State, is having a fine career, one of the nicer young men that I've met thus far this season. And it just goes to show you that we get to celebrate college football every weekend here on Fox College Sports and talk about all these great stories of kids overcoming adversity that you're not going to hear about in the National Football League all the time. So a nice job by a lot of these young men.
The official threw his hat as the intended receiver was out of bounds, then came back in. A lot of times you'll see the officials do that to indicate that that particular player is out on that play.
There's no flag, no foul on the play. Player was out of bounds.
Great description right there on that penalty.
So punt formation now, and they'll kick it away. 4th and 4 with 3:38 to go.
Haven't seen too many of these in a while. Punts by Kansas State. But another element they can work on at Texas A&M, young returner. They're excited about get the ball in their playmakers' hands.
And they'll get away from it, but it takes a Kansas State bounce and still stays in bounds. It's that kind of night, folks, for the Wildcats, isn't it?
It totally is. And you see them hanging their heads, but the game goes on. You got to continue to compete. And they've done well the last few drives, so it's going to be interesting to see how they come out offensively again after scoring the last 2 touchdowns.
If you call yourself a college sports fan, then you have to get FCS. For 900 live NCAA events year by year. And exclusive club sports as well. FCS, the place where college never ends. To get FCS, number to call, 877 to get FCS, or visit us at foxcollegesports.com. foxcollegesports.com. No flag on the play. Now 2 late flags fly in. Boy, those were awfully late, weren't they?
Yeah, I didn't know how much pass interference was on that particular play on Tannehill on the crossing route.
It was Hartman whistled for the infraction. 3:21 to go.
Pass interference, defense, number 2, hook and turn. 15-yard penalty in the previous spot, first down.
A little bump, maybe. There it is. There it is. That's the kind of the way those DB coaches teach it. As being a former receiver, they want to grab you with that backside arm and then reach across you, and hopefully it doesn't get called. But they call it right there, and they're moving.
Coach Sherman was very concerned about special teams coming into this game because of Bill Snyder. And we saw in the game that we did, the blocked extra point led to a win for Kansas State. We've also seen Banks with a return of 96 yards on a kickoff return, 96. But special teams, the good teams have excellent special teams. And even if you're not the best offensively or defensively, you can win or lose games with your special teams.
And so much of special teams is a mentality. And it starts with your star players, putting your starting linebackers and running backs on special teams, which a lot of these programs are doing. And you're seeing a trend. It started about 10 years ago in college football with the guy at Virginia Tech, Frank Beamer, the head coach running the special teams. And they do the same thing here at Kansas State. Bill Snyder makes sure that he has a very good impression on what's going on the special teams. And as a player, if the head coach puts that much importance on the team's aspect, then you know that it's a serious element. And for young players, it's how you prove yourself and get on the field and get more playing time and more playing time.
Watch out. Brought down.
It's going to be fun to watch Johnson in about 4 more weeks. And why? Because he's going to start to set his feet a little more. There's a lot he's going to be able to learn from this tonight. He's taken his drops tonight, and he's used to getting pressured. And when that happens for a young quarterback and a young starter, you sometimes can see ghosts. And you start to move in the pocket a little earlier, a little quicker. And he's done that early on tonight in the first quarter and on that last snap right there. You need to trust your offensive line, even though they haven't been there for a lot of this season thus far. But you start getting those happy feet. You don't set your feet. You can't make throws. Balls start to sail. And then you start to rush out of the pocket and miss some of your progression.
Now I'll ask you this. If you're Colorado and you've watched film of this year, and you've seen a guy like Banks on kickoff returns, punt returns, do you kick to him next week?
Not a chance. You do not let him beat you. Now, there's a lot of elements of that we can discuss. The first being Colorado, their back's against the wall. They may challenge their kickoff unit to cover them and see how that first one goes. But those plays, they can demoralize you real fast.
Play action, the tight end still on his feet. They finally mark him out of bounds. They'll mark him out of bounds at the 44-yard line.
That's the 6th time they've ran that same exact play. Fake the outside zone to the left, roll out to the right, and deal it to the fullback or the tight end in the flats. A nice job by the quarterback, taking what the defense gives you, and a great job of lowering your shoulder on the sideline. They call that the old dip and rip. Dip that inside shoulder, lean into him, and use his momentum to create momentum and propel you forward.
See, with all the sweatshirts and the hoods, it's cold out here in Manhattan, Kansas tonight. There's Valentine again, reversing direction and then spinning down with under a minute and a half to go here in our third quarter play. You being now a former Pittsburgh guy living on the West Coast, this is cold weather for you.
Yeah, second half, I can't lie, I threw the jacket on. It's good to get in the Midwest. Reminds me of Pennsylvania a little bit. Beautiful night. See my breath a little bit. It's nice, a little brisk. This is football weather.
It is football weather at that. 2nd and 8. Kaufman wants to throw. Now he'll keep it himself.
And there's our guy, number 40, Vaughn Miller. Haven't called his name a lot. I want to hear us say seal the deal when he makes plays like that. And they did a nice job game planning away from him all night long. He has not made plays, and it's a good job by that staff. They spend a lot of hours in the film room. They get in around 7, leave around midnight, 3 or 4 nights a week. They did not want to run at Miller. They did not want to have anyone, whether it be a tackle or a running back, have to face him one-on-one in pass protection. They've done a great job as they've rolled away from him all night.
Kaufman to throw, and he'll be sacked near the 45-yard line. They'll mark it at the 43. And Kaufman on the night is now 4 of 5, 43 yards, and as long as 21. There's a look at Miller, who still has a chance to get a little bit bigger as this third quarter comes to a close. Kansas State, all Wildcats tonight. Big crowd, sea of purple, and gearing up for a game next weekend on Fox College Sports against the Buffaloes of Colorado. 1 quarter to go. It's 59-14. 59-14. Kansas State leading Texas A&M here at home as we begin the start of our fourth quarter, and the Wildcats will kick it away. Ooh, they almost got it. Fair catch called for. And Sam, what do you have for us down on the sideline?
Well, guys, when I talked to Coach Sherman this week, I asked him what the biggest differences were between the NFL and the college level. And he mentioned the fact that you have a lot more players that you're working with, and you have a lot less time, about 20 hours a week instead of 40 hours a week. But the thing he was most concerned about was the hash marks and the difference that makes in play calling. Yo, you've been around the game for a while. What do you think? Is it that big of a deal?
It's hard when you're in the NFL for that long. You look at his staff, 47 combined years of guys on the offensive side of the football, been in the National Football League. When you come from where the football is traditionally in the middle of the field, all of a sudden you're on the hashes. The splits change for the players. Calling the strength of a formation has to alter as a play caller. And it is a big of a deal because you have to get used to it. And every coach I've ever talked to or met who's came from the National Football League to college, that's been the number one thing. But on top of that, it's not only hash, but it's also personnels and getting players in and out of a football game. In the National Football League, remember, you're talking to the quarterback in his headset. You've got things you can tell him. In college, you've got a signaler from the sideline, which is their graduate assistant, a former great player with Nebraska, Zach Taylor, a quarterback there. He's the 2006 Player of the Year offensively in the Big 12. But there's a lot of issues when you come from the league to college. And you're right, you nailed it, Sam. It is the hash marks is the number one issue that coordinators and play callers have to deal with. But it's also something they can deal with, and they obviously do.
Well, for instance here, they're on the left hash. So now the big side, the wide side, is the right side. You know, when he first got in the league, you're sitting there thinking, okay, if I'm in the middle of the field, I can go right or left. That kind of changes things, doesn't it?
It's a long throw if you're going to go to the bottom of your screen right now. It's a long throw for your quarterback. The nice thing about A&M is their quarterback, while he hasn't had a great night, can make those throws.
up in the air and incomplete. By the way, before tonight, Texas A&M had 16 sacks. This evening they have 1. And on the flip side, Kansas State total tonight coming into play had 6 sacks. And this evening they have 6. And think about that. They've matched their season total this evening.
They have gotten after the quarterback. Turnovers number 1, quarterback play number 2. Every game, every level of football, go watch any game, and that's exactly what will tell the winner and the loser.
Have to kick it now deep in their own end zone. It's a low kick. There he is, Banks. Been sitting on the bench, a little bit cold because he's not playing with that first team unit. So a short return, and that'll stop play at 59-42. K-State with the lead, 13:52 to go in our 4th quarter of play. Don't forget, Big 12 football next Saturday will be at Kansas State again. Colorado and K-State, 12:30 Eastern on Fox College Sports. By the way, Colorado leads by 10 over Kansas, 27-17. With 7:24 to go in the 3rd quarter. How about Von Miller tonight?
You look at Von Miller, relatively shut down tonight due to the game plan. But if you're a young player, you have to look at him and be excited because he was relentless. Even though his numbers didn't improve, he didn't stop. His motor did not stop no matter what the score was or what was going on in the game, and he got himself a sack there.
So 1st and 10 for Kansas State. Throwing the football, leading 59-14.
Well, the biggest thing is you've got your number 2 quarterback or almost your 1A quarterback, 1B quarterback in before the game tonight. You want to run your offense. He needs to get comfortable in the system. He can't just get used to handing the football off. Run your stuff. And I know you may not like that. It's not about running it up, but you need to run your offense.
2nd down and 8. Valentine, big hole. How many times we said that, big hole, because that offensive line has really done a nice job.
They've done a great job. When you really want to give credit to the offensive line coach, Charlie Dickey, did a great job with this team, kind of piecing this offensive line together to be successful and get off the rock. So much when you are in the gun is still hearing the snap count, and as an offensive lineman, you can only see the snap count because it's just a foot or a hand. So to get off the ball the way they are, it's been impressive all night.
Play clock is down to 5, working from the shotgun. Kaufman. Look at this. Almost was able to break a tackle and make something out of nothing. By the way, we should mention that Carson Kaufman, the quarterback now for Kansas State, his brother was an All-American tight end at Missouri, who's now playing in the National Football League.
Yeah, and his dad played at Kansas State as well.
Yep.
So football is in his family, which is a credit to this young man because he's handled this very humbly and in a really respectful fashion of being the starter, not being the starter, not knowing if he's going to be the starter. And it's a credit to the staff, the program, and obviously this kid's upbringing.
His dad, Paul, tight end at Kansas State, then went on to the National Football League for 11 seasons. And as I mentioned, his brother Chase played tight end at Mizzou and drafted by Cincinnati last year.
Offense, 5-yard penalty, 4th down.
Tell you what, his brother had a great set of hands and was one of the best tight ends Big 12 has seen in quite some time. And with Chase Daniel and Jeremy Macklin and some of the great players that they had, he just fit right in with that terrific offense. And Missouri, as we mentioned, at Oklahoma State tonight.
You can tell they play a little catch growing up.
Oh, I would think so. Yeah, I would think so. Kick is away, a high kick. Fair catch called for, but it'll take a K-State bounce. Look at that.
And that is a traditional rookie mistake right there.
You have to catch it.
If you're going to call a fair catch, you've got to catch it unless it's going over your head into the end zone.
11:46 to play, 59-14. Kansas State leading Texas A&M. A look at the Big 12 scoreboard. A few finals already in, but the big game we're watching, Colorado trying to pull up an upset against KU. 27-17. Colorado will be here next weekend. Oklahoma State in the first, 7-3 over Missouri, and Iowa State. How about Iowa State? You know, they're one bad special teams play away from only having one loss this year with a new coach.
And they had Kansas on the ropes the next weekend.
Gene Chizik, of course, left Iowa State to head to Auburn as the catch is made. Little breathing room now. And Morrow knocked out of bounds at the 7-yard line as they're starting this drive on their own 1.
Paul Rhodes doing a great job at Iowa State. He's felt that he was going to be a head coach his entire career, prepared like it for the past 8 seasons as he interviewed for those jobs. And now he's got his guys believing that they can win versus finding ways to lose and altering that culture there.
Over the middle, and the pass is incomplete, but flags on the play. They come in late from the sideline with 11:25 to play. It's almost as if the receivers were running the picks.
Pass interference, number 45, defense. Spot foul, first down.
Crowd doesn't like that one bit. You see underneath routes, this West Coast offense so much is built on shallow crossing routes. If you can remember in the 80s, early 90s, the Jerry Rices, John Taylors, or even the Sterling Sharps when they were with Green Bay, and Mike Sherman obviously with Brett Favre and the great ones. But he's part of that lineage of West Coast offense coaches. It started with Bill Walsh.
The previous play is being challenged.
It started with Bill Walsh, George Seifert, a variety of other guys, Mike Shanahan, just to name a few, and the list can go on and on and on.
So let's see what the challenge is all about here.
Well, Coach Snyder, he doesn't want to give up an inch as he makes the challenge. I think they want to say the ball was tipped. It looks like it was. And if that's the case, then it should not be a penalty. So
it's a live ball.
It's a good job by the guys up in the booth. Great job on that staff at Kansas State challenging that. And it's good for the players. And it's good to get in a rhythm of, well, we're challenging a call. What would we do in this instance? And as a defensive coordinator, you've got to be ready for both. And obviously on the other side of the football, as an offensive coordinator, be ready for both instances of getting the penalty or moving on to the next down. See it right there. Little tip. As a D lineman, you're always taught when you see that QB throw, get your hands up in the air and take a swat at it.
What's interesting, I don't know if you feel this way, but in watching it, it doesn't look like he tipped it until you see the rotation of the ball. Then it's obvious that somebody touched it. But just initially looking at it, I didn't think that.
Bill Snyder, a competitor, he's been doing this for years. Not going to give up an inch. I don't blame him. You're either competing or you're not. He's talking about his family the other day in his office. That he's got.
After further review, the play stands as called. Kansas State is charged with a team timeout.
Interesting.
It was interesting talking to the replay officials before the game as they're to our right here in this booth. They said they review every play, and you need conclusive evidence to overturn it. And if you don't feel it's conclusive, then obviously the play does not get overturned. There's a lot of plays we kind of hashed out that were from earlier today in other games. The Texas-Oklahoma game on the punt return, on the muff punt. We even went back to the Texas-USC days with the Vince Young knee on the ground. Doing a good job up here to our right on the replays.
Throw underneath and incomplete.
It was interesting talking to Coach Snyder. He talked a lot about his family. He said, I got 5 kids, 8 grandchildren, just had a great grandchild, and I want to get home and see them. So he wants this game to get going. He loves his Sundays and spending the time with the family. And you could tell he was kind of a changed man from his first tenure here to now. He's got a little bit different perspective.
I think the main question, though, for most people that aren't from this community, or maybe they don't follow Big 12 football, a little shovel pass here, and he lost his shoe, is why come back? You know, he just turned 70 about 10 days ago, and yet Bill Snyder is coaching at the Division I level, and not just doing it at a small school. He's doing it at a big school in a big conference, and trying to regain a big status that he once had with his school. Why come back, though?
Well, the big reason is that he feels such a loyalty to this university. As much as he did for them, the university did for him in terms of the fans supporting him and the program and the alumni, that when it was in the state it was a year ago, he felt that he was the guy that could right the ship and hopefully turn it in the right direction before handing it off for somebody to do it. He doesn't want to do it for another 20 or 30 years, let alone probably 5 or 10, but he wants to get it going in the right direction for everyone who's associated with K-State football.
I'm curious, in your conversation, as you had a nice long visit with Bill Snyder, you know, how much longer does he want to do this? At the age of 70, the stadium is named after him. When you pull off the highway, the drive down here to get to this stadium is named Bill Snyder Highway, that stretch of highway. I mean, how much longer, though, do you really want to do this?
Well, I mean, even more, he created the logo that was on the field. I mean, he's a part of this program in every element of its essence. I think he sees himself doing it for a few seasons, getting it going in the right direction, and then turning it over to somebody that can carry it on. But I know Athletic Director John Curry is fired up about having him here and the discipline and the accountability that he brings to the program. And every one of these players, they say he walks into the room, I sit up in my chair, respect this man for everything he's done.
10:25 to go, and it's 59-14, Kansas State with the lead. And you were just telling me, and you mentioned this right before break, the logo. Bill Snyder has a hand in the logo.
Yeah, he does. He said when he first started here, he met a guy named Tom Buckwalter in town, and he wanted to recreate the logo and make a logo that signified Kansas State football. Not the university, but when you see it, you think about K-State football. And he's done that. And not only does he win games, not only does he change the culture and involve the community, but he changed the logo at the university that's on the field, which is named after him. And his imprint is on this program and will be for quite some time.
The logo, now that's something.
It's not all X's and O's. He's got that design element to him. Got to give him credit. But it's pretty neat because this is what does signify K-State football. And obviously he is synonymous with K-State football and everything they've accomplished, you know, in the past a long time, I guess we'll say.
Late 80s to now, essentially, when you talk about Bill Snyder. They had just about 13,000 fans in the first game that he ever coached. 13,000 here at this particular facility.
He called them Heartland fans. Care about values, about their family, about the community, about the program. And now, relatively almost sold out tonight, almost 50,000. And, you know, obviously when they were in their heyday, this place was rocking. Got the chance to talk to a few alumni last night at the athletic director's house with Samantha. They talked about his program and what it means to the community, and when he started to win, how much they got behind it and just ingrained with every element of the discipline the players were coached with, and they kind of carried that over to their personal lives and everything they did. So this community in Aggieville is all about Bill Snyder.
Aggieville. Oh, that's a fun little spot, you know, up and down Aggieville, bars and restaurants. They'll be rocking tonight, you know that.
I think the students might have left a little early.
Do you blame
Warm
them?
it up.
Chilly night, leading 59-14. There are be fourth down now for Kansas State.
And there are still areas for this Kansas State team to improve. This is a blowout, but this instance right here, it's fourth down. They traditionally would go for it because Josh Cherry, their kicker, hasn't had much success. Now they get to put him in a situation, and for him mentally, how's he going to adapt right now?
It's a 46-yard attempt. Kick is up, distance is there, and it is good. 46-yarder. To 14, Kansas State.
He's had a tough night, but he's came back and thrown a few nice balls here in the third, fourth quarter.
Brandon Klimek, by the way, a redshirt freshman, a 46-yard field goal, first of his career. Let's go back to your predictions for this game.
Number one, compete at the line of scrimmage for A&M, and they obviously didn't do it. They got dominated up front. Number two, protect the football. They threw their first interception of the year by Johnson and put the ball on the turf right off the bat, led to a touchdown. And the youth movement needed to play well on the road, and they didn't do that. And it's the first time they really had the plane trip, a real road test. The first road game, I guess technically, was at the new Cowboy Stadium against Arkansas. And they learned a great deal. And when they come back, there's a lot of firsts when you go on the road. It's the first chartered flight. It's all the meals. It's the bus trips. It's the first walkthrough. It's the first hotel.
Delay, offense, 5-yard penalty, first down.
It's all of those things. So for a young player, you can get a little giddy, a little excited. You want to kind of show the opposing crowd all your stuff and get out of your game. And before you knew it, it was a 3-touchdown game here at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. And A&M, their backs were against the wall, and offensively, they couldn't get anything going. And Johnson, probably one of his worst games as an Aggie, completing less than 50% of his passes.
There's the numbers on Johnson. Then on the other side, Grant Gregory. And again, we come into this game, like many fans, not really sure who may start. Kansas State pretty tight-lipped about it. Our guess was we thought Grant Gregory, and he went 10 of 13, 147 with a touchdown. And Carson Kaufman has gone 5 of 6, 45 yards.
That's a lot of credit to Gregory and how tough he is mentally. To not know who the starting quarterback is going to be, and if it's going to be you, to be able to still prepare as the starter is not easy. And for both of these young men, I mean, it could have been a shoelace or it could have been a couple interceptions, and you're in the game. So for them to prepare and understand the game plan is impressive. And more so when you look at it even deeper of the practice reps. You're only practicing on your game plan Tuesday and Wednesday. Thursday's a polished day. Friday's a polished day. And there's only 60 to 80 plays a day. So you have to split them 50-50, where traditionally you'll probably go 80-20, and the 20% are probably just handoffs. So to split the entire package between two guys is impressive for both of them to play efficiently as they did this evening. It's interesting, you're seeing Tannehill at receiver down at the bottom of your screen, number 17. Didn't want to play him a lot heading into this game, only put him in on third downs as you see him run a crossing route as they launch one down the sideline.
And a jump ball, no flags on the play.
But they didn't want to play him a lot due to the potential injury. But
Personal foul, roughing the passer, number 94. Hit to the face, 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
He has been their most reliable receiver. So you wonder if Mike Sherman said, forget the backup element, let's put our best 11 guys on the field and get number 17 out there.
He's a top active A&M receiver with over 1,100 yards coming into this ball game tonight out of Big Spring, Texas, and only a sophomore. Under 7 minutes to go, 62-14. Dumps it underneath. A pickup of 2 on the play. Morrow with his third reception.
So much in this West Coast offense, or West Coast principles in the spread offense, is about the placement of the football. Picking shoulders, becoming a very accurate quarterback. And the only way you can do that is by setting your feet. In the second half, Johnson has done that. And it's what he's going to be able to pull from this game when he goes back and critiques his individual performance.
See him wearing the gloves and a cool night here in Manhattan. It's deflected and incomplete.
And for the game that Johnson had, it obviously wasn't stellar by any stretch, but he's one of the more impressive young men and young quarterbacks we've had a chance to talk to. A great family. He said his parents taught him the game of football and how to be respectful and humble. He lost his father a few years ago. 11 foster kids lived in his house. Just an incredible young man, well-spoken, a true leader. Defensive coordinator Joe Kimes said he's going to be the CEO of a company someday. He is just an absolute stud, and physically, obviously, he's imposing every time you want to lay a hand on him. And he's going to develop into the signal caller all the Aggie fans want him to be.
big hit at the 20. Morrow with the first down. Gerard Johnson, fourth. The NCAA and passing touchdowns coming into play. 8th on the career completions list, 9th on their attempts list, 5th already on their touchdown list. And as you mentioned, he's only a junior. They'll hand it off this time. And a tackle inside the 5, so the Aggies will have it first and goal.
And this is good. As a player, I was around some tough losses, and you always pull from it. Because every single play from the first quarter to the fourth, it's 1, 2, 3, or multiple guys not doing their job. And ultimately, this game comes down to accountability at every position, including the coaching staff. And that's what these young guys are going to go back and watch this film and ask themselves, was I accountable every single snap? Offense, defense, and special teams. Did I do my job, what my teammate expected me to do? Because at the end of the day, it's not like basketball. You could have Jordan and Pippen and do okay. In football, all 11 guys need to play sound, play well, and do their job and fulfill their responsibility to the program.
And a whistle before the play with a flag. 5:25 to go.
There's no foul on the play. Timeout, Kansas State.
So let's take a look at the upcoming schedules for both these teams. And we'll start with Texas A&M, the remaining games. It does not get any easier next weekend, as they'll have Texas Tech have to go to their place, then at home against Iowa State, at Colorado, then at number 18 Oklahoma, Baylor on the 21st of November, and then against number 2 Texas. So for A&M, there's some tough teams upcoming.
And there's not a bye week in there either. And for a young team and young guys that are probably beat up a little bit, they're not used to the grind of a longer training camp and a longer season, they may hit that proverbial wall. So there's a lot of ways as a coach where you'll be able to deal with that.
30-second timeout.
And the biggest advantage A&M has in that regard is they have an NFL head coach who has to deal with that and has dealt with that with rookies. A lot of times at every position they hit that wall. You know, in the NFL it's 4 weeks of preseason, 4 games before you even play your first game. That's a third of a college football season. So if you're an Aggie fan, you're not happy tonight, but know that he's got the program on the right track recruiting-wise, recruiting up front, offensive and defensive linemen. The strength staff, you're not going to find a better one in the country in Dave Kennedy and the things that he's doing with those guys. And their quarterback, he has all the potential in the world, and their staff has developed a lot of guys, including one certain Hall of Famer, Brett Favre. So I think they'll be okay. Just might take a little time.
Brings up a 3rd and goal now with the ball on the 5. Stops play with 5:21 to go. Aggies have just 4 turnovers coming into play. And that has not been the story tonight, though. They've turned the ball over. Special teams has hurt them.
They've been outplayed in every element of the football game tonight. But they haven't quit, and you've got to give them credit for doing that, and young guys often can.
Looking end zone. And no, he was out of bounds when he caught it.
The tough thing about the spread offense is when you get down inside the 10, you don't have a lot of plays down there. You don't run the ball a ton anyway, so you have to sit back in the gun, offset your running back, and throw some sort of combination route. You want to get the ball out of your hands, and when you get inside the 10, a lot of quarterbacks like being under center because they could be more rhythmic. Give me the ball faster. Let me take 1, 2, 3 steps and get rid of the rock. And when you're in the gun, you got to feel the laces, find the football, and you can be a hair late. And on that play, it could have been a touchdown, but a little late on the throw.
In the middle, intercepted.
First thing you're going to tell your quarterback on this, you didn't need to get out of the pocket. Sit in the pocket. When you get out of the pocket, he threw relatively off his front foot on that. Watch the quarterback right now. He gets a snap. There isn't any pressure. He's running to his right, throws off his relative front foot. Put your back foot in the ground, son, and make a throw. Make a throw not across your body. There's no pressure. He doesn't need to go anywhere. The protection is set right in the middle of him. And when you throw across your body at any level, whether it's in the backyard football or National Football League or here tonight at Bill Snyder Family Stadium, good things aren't going to happen.
We'll keep it on the ground here.
This is the fun part if you're Kansas State. You get everybody in. Everybody's in the game. All the guys that put in all the hard work on the service teams, training camps, spring football, all of those things are getting in the game, getting a little love.
5 minutes to go. Let's check in with Sam downstairs.
Guys, when you coach college football in the state of Texas, it's pretty darn important to keep a good relationship with the high school football coaches in that state. Now, one of the ways that Coach Sherman is doing that is by writing these letters after each game, each week, basically telling them how the week went, what they talked about that week, what he used for motivation, and maybe what went wrong. Now, I hate to be negative Nancy here, but what do you think he's going to write in these high school letters this week? I mean, is there anything positive to say?
Well, I think the one positive thing that he's going to write in those letters is, well, hey, we got beat soundly, but we're going to come back and compete and play Texas A&M football. And we're obviously giving young guys a chance to play early and play often. And right now, if you recruit in the state of Texas, the other program, UT, is doing pretty good for themselves right now with a huge win today. And A&M, it's got a storied tradition. They put a lot of people in the National Football League. If you're a youngster in that state, and there's a lot of them that play football very well, A&M could be the perfect place for you to play early, play often, and be coached by a guy who is at that place where you've always dreamed of, which is the National Football League.
On 2nd and 6, they run the option. By the way, Gerard Johnson, quarterback of Texas A&M, 225 consecutive pass attempts this season without an interception. He set the Big 12 single-season record tonight, but then it didn't go as planned because after he set the record, 3 interceptions.
Yeah, this was definitely not what he thought of last night right before he went to bed and visualized this football game. But sometimes it never is, and you have to react and adapt. And that's what Coach Sherman is going to be able to talk to him about and pull from a variety of examples that he's had as an assistant coach and as obviously a head coach with the Packers. And Favre, Favre threw a lot of picks too and didn't always play excellent under center. And he's a very interesting guy when you sit down with Sherman. A very impressive, obviously an NFL pedigree, background. Been in the college game before he got to the National Football League. At A&M, UCLA, Holy Cross, Tulane. He was actually at Pitt. He was asleep in the weight room, he told me, because he couldn't afford an apartment. But he does a lot of things. He's a former English teacher. He likes to write. He said it's therapeutic, so why he writes the letters. When he was in Green Bay, he wrote a local article every week for the newspaper. He's someone who you could say he gets the big picture of things. And in recruiting, that's everything. Because when you can walk into a kid's home and say, we need you, you will play, you'll play well, and I know as well as anybody in the Big 12 how to get to the National Football League, come and join our team. And that's what he's going to do as recruiting season is heating up and signing day, comes around this February.
Under 2.5 to play. But as you well know, it comes down to a fan base and an administration having patience. It's a short window for many of these coaches to win. And right or wrong, that is the way it's held. The standards are held in college football.
You're right, and especially with all the money that's floating around now and the salaries that coordinators are making, let alone head coaches. So, yeah, it's a what have you done for me lately type business. And he knows that better than anybody because in the National Football League, it could be 3 bad games in a row and you're gone, let alone 3 bad seasons. But I think when you look at A&M and their history, the class.
Delay, offense, 5-yard penalty, 3rd down.
The class that they have as a university, as a fan base, they're going to give them a little time. Well, they get frustrated, and I'm sure the message boards will be rolling tonight. But out of all the programs that I've gotten to be around, and you as well covering the Big 12, this is a respectful program. They're going to give him his time to right this ship and get his players in to run his offense and his schemes.
Well, bottom line is he's in an unbelievable state for great players.
That's
and, whether or not you get the top player at a particular position coming out of the state of Texas, they'll throw him out of bounds. It'll stop the clock with 1:44. If you get the 3rd, the 4th, or the 5th, that's still the best player in a lot of other states.
That's right. That's the fun part of recruiting. I mean, we covered a bunch of teams this year, and if you're Kansas State, you've got to recruit out of state a lot. You go down to Texas, you go to California if you can, you go to Oklahoma and try to recruit a few players and athletes that you don't have in your home state. Texas A&M, their entire staff, all 9 guys, they don't have to leave the state unless it's some sort of family connection to the university. They are recruiting Texas and Texas only, and that will revive the program. It won't even be that hard, and it won't take that long. But up front, you can recruit receivers and skill position players to score touchdowns.
Kansas State, that's their 3rd and last timeout of the half. This is a 30-second timeout.
You can recruit skill position players to make immediate impacts, but if you can't protect up front, you don't have a chance. And there are not too many 18-year-old Orlando Paces laying around that can start as true freshmen and dominate. And they've got some freshmen that are playing on the offensive line and gaining great experience, but physically, they've never had to go up against it. Think about what they've seen. They've seen defensive linemen that are probably 5'10", 195 pounds their entire career. Now they're going up against freaks of nature on the defensive line. So just give them a little time up front. They'll do all right.
So minute 44 to play after the timeout. It's 4th and 4. Check that, 4th and 6 for Kansas State. So they'll punt it away. And that will roll into the end zone. Tune in to FCS next Saturday. We return to Manhattan right here in Kansas. Kansas State will host Colorado, 12:30 Eastern, 11:30 Central. Catch exclusive Big 12 football all season long right here on Fox College Sports. And Kansas now leading Colorado 30-27 with 12:24 to go. K-State's most points in a Big 12 game since 1999. Well, you have to go back to 1999. They had 66 in that game against Missouri. They won 66-0. And that was their largest margin of victory in Big 12 play.
It's going to be fun to come back next week. I've never been to Kansas before this season. I've been here 3 times already with our crew, and it's been a blast every time. And there's going to be a good football game next week. Colorado, it'll be fun to see how this one turns out against Kansas. But they'll be able to move the football and run the football. Rodney Stewart is a big-time back. He's fast, flashy. Receivers, Seamus is back, playing. Scotty McKnight, sure-handed guy. Defensively, they do a nice job with their linebacking core. It'll be a fun matchup. I think physically I'd give the edge to Kansas State, obviously, after watching them tonight. But anything can happen any given Saturday.
And the catch is made and a pickup of 1:20 to play, and the clock continues to roll. Brings up a 3rd down and 9.
Tannehill in the slot. You see him on the top of your screen right there, number 17, 3rd down specialist. Johnson said he loves going to Tannehill. He's been his biggest fan as he became the starting quarterback.
And a catch made and a 1st down for Texas A&M. So Kansas State takes on Colorado next week, and we'll have it for you here on Fox College Sports. And that will come your way once again at 11:30 next Saturday. 11:30 Central Time next Saturday.
A tough season for Coach Hawkins and his crew. Obviously, Cody benching him last week after the Texas performance. And now with the new signal caller under center. We need to see that offense and what they dial up next weekend here in Manhattan.
It's thrown out of bounds with 22 seconds to play.
Well, when you get in the locker room tonight, and your Coach Snyder, I want to tell you guys how proud of him you are. Came back from a tough loss last week, forgot about it, came to work, put in the extra day's work on Friday, had an easy practice, but had pads on, focused, sharp, crisp. And on the other side, your Coach Sherman, you're saying, take a look at that score. Let's get to the truth of it, which is we got beat up at the line of scrimmage. We did not protect the football. And let's move on and get back to the way we know how to play sound football, the way we did the last few weeks against Arkansas, against Oklahoma State, and see if we can take those principles and carry them on, because this is a long season. And for the freshmen, you're no longer freshmen. You're sophomores. Time to grow up, time to play ball. It's a physical game. You're going to get hit in the mouth, but how are you going to respond? And it'll be fun to watch them next week. They got a tough one at Texas Tech, and that quarterback, I'm sure Johnson, as you see him complete another pass out there to Mr. Easy, who we'd love to talk about all night long, he's going to be motivated.
And that'll do it. Bill Snyder and the Kansas State Wildcats roll over Texas A&M. 62-14. Bill Snyder will visit with Sam momentarily.
Nice thing about this win is that it is a community win. This entire place, whether it's a restaurant, a hotel, everybody had their Kansas State gear on today. They were ready to go, support this program, support this team, and they all feel they've got a little part of this program, and as they should. Aggieville's going off right now, I'm sure. Campus is excited. Midway through the season, a big Big 12 win for Kansas State.
Sam, go ahead.
Coach, obviously last week, huge disappointing loss, and then you come back and win in this fashion. How big is this for your program?
Well, it's better than the alternative, isn't it? It's just another step. I'm proud of our youngsters. I thought they, in the first half, we really played well. And when you play well, then you deserve to have good things happen to you. Texas A&M, I know, is a better football team than they were tonight. They're going through the same kind of growing pains as we are. Last week they played extremely well against Oklahoma State. They just didn't play as well today. And coupled with the fact that we did play pretty well, I think gave us a chance.
Coach, you've been going back and forth between these two quarterbacks all season. What did you see that you liked tonight?
Well, we didn't throw any interceptions. I always like that. They managed the game relatively well early in the ball game. A little later, it was, it got a little iffy. But they just managed the ball game well, threw the ball all right. They played reasonably well.
You get to go home and be with the family just like you like it, Coach. Congratulations.
Thank you, dear, very much. Thank you.
Back up to you guys.
All right, Sam, good job. And 62-14, our final tonight. And we'll take a quick timeout. When we come back, a look at many highlights for the Wildcats. So our final 62-14, Kansas State.